Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone from Melbourne, Australia. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of the daily Gen AI news briefing with the team from GAI Insights, where we rate and debate the importance of the latest enterprise AI news, giving it a final rating of essential, important, or optional. I'm Adam Rappaport, research analyst and tech wizard, and I'm the moderator this week. Today, I have with me most of our usual suspects. It's a pleasure to have you all. Luda, Paul, John, and Tim, a couple times a week. It's always a pleasure to have you. And Ankaj, thanks as always for sourcing the articles. If those of you who are watching the live stream would like to follow along at home, you can go to our website, gaiinsights.com/articles. And we have the list of all the articles we're reviewing there for you to have a look at. With that, Ankaj, why don't you bring up the first article and we'll kick things off. Thanks.
Good. Thanks, Adam. So the first one that we have for today comes from Microsoft, and it talks about Microsoft Dragon Copilot.
Yes, this is a really interesting piece. So many people may already know that there's the Dragon naturally speaking software that does a phenomenal job with transcription, and it's in many ways, I understand, has been an industry standard in the medical profession for case notes and those sorts of things. It's been very popular. Microsoft has now integrated that into a full voice copilot. John, why don't you kick us off with this one? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that I think this is an interesting application, and we also have some evidence from some of our clients that this, in fact, this kind of capability has been deployed already, not necessarily with the Microsoft product, but what's interesting is that this is a huge issue for doctors. The AMA did a big study that said, doctors are getting burned out. Why they're getting burned out is because of all the paperwork they have to do. So one of our experts was telling us that with the implementation of this kind of capability, again, not the Microsoft product in particular, but they were able to go from a 7-minute doctor visit 14-minute doctor visit where the doctor was with the patient for 4 minutes and did 10 minutes of paperwork on average, to one where they visited with the patient for 7 minutes, 6 minutes with the patient, and 1 minute on paperwork, which I think is, you shrink the office visit time by 50% and you increase the time with the client by 50%. Pretty impressive. So I was going to give this an important, because there are many places, especially in healthcare, where the transcription and interpretation of the conversation is vital. But to me, it wasn't essential because, product announcement, and there's other solutions out there.
All right, we've got an important to start things off. Luda, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for the healthcare and it's important, that integration. The article is about the integration. But I rated it optional. Even for healthcare, there are so many tools right now out there that this is an advancement, but I don't know how big of an advancement it is. So I was optional. I can be convinced important.
Paul, good morning to you. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely optional.
Tim might actually have a view.
I was hoping he would drop back in. Tim, if you're with us, all right, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it.
I think. Hear me? Hello? Maybe I'm not with you.
Yeah,
we can hear you, Tim.
We can hear you,
okay,
Tim.
Good. So are we on the Microsoft article?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty important. I mean, essential if you're in the healthcare services industry. And I would probably give it an important in general, because they did cite, they don't have great ROI, but they did cite the statistics about burnout and other things that show that these technologies really do have an impact and can be transformational, I think, in terms of how they affect workflows. So for that reason, I would tend to give this an important.
Yeah, look, I was on the fence, but probably leaning to important when I think about this probably being the first of many Microsoft Copilots we're going to see voice-driven over the next 6 months here, and more a signal towards a trend of going after industry and sector specific solutions with front workers. I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity, and we're going to see a lot more of this. So it's something for people to start thinking about in other places as well. So let's give it an important to move along.
Okay, the next one that we have for today comes from Perplexity and Deutsche Telekom. They are launching a new AI phone priced under $1,000.
All right, Luda, a new AI phone, Perplexity, has been making moves. What do you think of the news?
Yes, it's actually Deutsche Telekom that is making moves. They would like to put their stamp on the mobile market, because the prior versions of when intercoms get involved, they don't get the direct customer, right? The phone makers do, and so this is their attempt to grab the market share. Perplexity is just a partner who, not just, it's a partner who will do the interface. They've already announced the Android AI assistant interface. And I actually was trying to figure out what is happening with the Android and what's the usage. And I found a survey by Android Authority that surveyed 6,000 folks, and 3,000 of them said that they would switch to this Android with Perplexity AI assistant right away. So this is, I don't know what the usage numbers are, but it seems like it's making good foray in the market. So I rated it as important, because I think this is a move into the mobile market that would democratize essentially the phones with AI assistants on them, because other telcos will replicate, I think. So
Yeah,
important.
super interesting news. I also understood. I found today that 11 Labs is part of this plan for the Magenta AI in terms of the voice generation on device. So it's going to be interesting to see how this pans out. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to rate this essential, because I think that this is the mobile providers have an opportunity to be first in the demand chain, and as things get more virtual and things get more intelligent, whoever can sense demand or search or interest first has an incredible asset. And I think Perplexity, I think the telcos have ceded their front seat at the show to the search engines and other applications. And I think this is a chance for them to reassert. And, Deutsche is a great, partner to do this. I'd be interested to see if, Verizon and AT&T can get their act together. I was talking to a, major language model supplier, and this person was saying, how am I going to win in this marketplace? And I said, go to the telcos, do this move. I just sent this thing to this person, this scientist, last night. I think it's essential news, because it's going to change where the location of customer interaction is going to be, and who's going to influence that. So,
and it would also reduce the price, right? It sounds like of ownership on the phone.
Yeah, depending on how they do their pricing model could. Yeah, I mean, this reminds me to in the early days of the internet, right? You had people talking about giving away phones and so forth. Anyway, I would go for essential.
Well, I'll make the opposite argument.
Go ahead,
I mean,
Jim.
this is a product announcement, and the area is essential. We've been talking about going to the edge forever, but it's a product announcement. It's not even available. It's a European product announcement. We don't even know what platforms it'll be on or when. It didn't strike me as all that important.
Paul, you agree? You're giving a thumbs up for the optional.
1,000% agree with Tim.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna weigh in on important and be democratic about this. We'll come down in the middle. It's something I think people could be aware of to get across, but I'm not sure how much an AI leader needs to be knowing this right now when it's not even on sale till next year. So
All right.
You both make some good points, John and Luda, but we'll keep it at important.
Just I'm at the vanguard of change and insight. I can't
Yep.
help it if I'm.
If others can't see your vision, John,
if
I
I
understand.
can't
Yeah.
enlighten
Well,
the
we'd be
rest
good
of
to
us.
have an article that made your point, though, John.
Good idea.
Yeah. Get to work. On to the next one. Thanks, Ankash.
The next one that we have comes from A16Z, and it talks about how voice AI will change how we bank.
Yeah, Tim, what do you think about this this piece from A16Z?
I thought it was interesting but optional. They write reasonable frameworks. This one's early; it's not even really a developed framework. We've talked forever about how finance is going to be transformed, and this just says, yeah, it probably is going to be, and here are some ideas about companies that are working in those areas. But nothing earth-shattering here, and nothing really that we haven't seen before.
Thanks, Luda. Agree?
Yeah, I agree with optional. Ankash, if you scroll down to the chart of the
commercial
of the layers, yeah, of various companies playing in it. Yeah, it's the beginnings, but they kind of put it into buckets to start developing it. There's quite a bit already, and I think it's will be quite a number, but optional.
Do we know how many of these are A16Z companies? Just saying.
I don't know.
I'm betting all of them.
Yeah.
No, I think it would be too much. Maybe a third.
John, Paul, good with optional?
Optional.
Optional.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Let's move along. Thanks, Ankash.
Sorry, I was on mute. Okay. The next one comes from AWS, and it talks about problem solving and strategic thinking skills with Amazon Bedrock.
Yeah, John, this looked to me like a very, very fancy way of saying you can prompt engineer, but I'm curious to see if you got anything else out of it.
No, I get the same thing. I mean, let's see, how do I say this? This is the tyranny of lazy thinking. These models. I think Ed Tufte said it best, which is he said, "Look, the most sophisticated arguments are not made in a hierarchy or necessarily within a framework." And so I didn't think this was that big a deal. I was going to say optional in terms of how they're using these tools. It's kind of like macros for semantics, if you will. And it's just these are things that consulting organizations, for example, have been generating forever. They have templates. Does this push that forward a little bit? I guess I was going to root for optional. I also don't like this, just the kind of thinking that this supports. It supports thinking that gets really lazy. Anyway, so I didn't see a lot in terms of the technological advance, in terms of the commercial impact. Although I bet it'll get a fair amount of use because people like these kind of libraries and these kind of how would I put it? Kind of frameworks and kind of base components that they can put an argument together with.
Yeah, agreed. Luda, what do you think?
I agree with optional. However, kudos to AWS. It's a primer, right? Yes, Adam, you said people can write prompts, but this is actually helping people structure their thinking around what exists, like what is an issue tree, what is a root cause analysis type of a thing, how do you prompt, and how do you visualize it, and so I think it's certainly useful primer, like SWOT analysis, useful, very useful, but optional for an AI leader. Unless we say, I was thinking optional important because it is true that many people do not think structurally. And for AI leader to know about this primer and send it down to the troops, that might be worthwhile to put it as important.
I had a somewhat allergic reaction to when you say this way of thinking, Luda, and
No, I know.
the reason is there's a thing in here that says any company, factory profits are down 30%. As revenue decline, cost increases, and it decomposes the thing. I was at PwC teaching a class on that, and people were in the basic underlying case was one of gypsum, and people completely missed the point, which is that there's no market power in the gypsum market because there are easy substitutes. And the whole team went all the way down the issue tree. Oh, let's raise this by 5% and this by 10%. It's like, are you kidding me? That's like, it's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. You're completely missing the point.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's the thing so I may be prejudiced because I looked at that as like, no.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. But remember, you are a high power consultant who has been able to look at macro issues and micro issues together, or, it's not everybody. And this type of thinking, if you just sit down and you are challenged to put together a good prompt, you are challenged. So this primer would be enormously helpful.
Fair enough.
I think I'm sort of with John. I had kind of the allergic reaction to the lazy thinking part. However, I will say if you're in professional services, this is essential because you can bring your newbies up much more quickly because they're going to be asked to do this kind of stuff all the time. And B, they're going to be, tasks are going to be replaced or at least compressed in price. Clients are going to be either be able to do this themselves, or they're going to expect you to do it this way and not expect to pay a lot of money for it. I do agree that the real insights don't generally come from these exercises, but it's not like they won't get done. So I think I didn't really like it in its form, and it's implying that you could substitute for thinking. But I do think I could even vote for important because of the effect it's going to have both internally and on organizations and on professional services firms.
Yeah.
I think I'm a little closer to important than I was coming into it, but I'm still going to lean towards optional. I think I could literally go right now to any of the foundation models and say, give me some problem solving and strategic thinking tactics, and then just put those into a prompt and make another dozen examples that illustrate what's here. It's an important idea. I hope by now people know that if they need to do strategic thinking, there are frameworks they can give to the models to help them do their strategic thinking. So this is still optional in my opinion. Let's move along. It's not a democracy.
Yeah, in fact, one quick comment that actually maybe the best prompt to give it would be, tiny tile company, whoever it was, profits are down 30%. What do we do? Let's think through this step by step. Just give it a chain of thought prompt, and I bet it would come up with some pretty good stuff.
All righty, Ankaj, next one, please.
The next one that we have comes from Bain & Company, and they provide us field notes from the GAI insurgency in private equity.
Yeah, big report out of Bain, big section on it about AI. Luda, what do you think?
Yeah, a very long article from Bain focusing on private equity. I gave it an optional, but it has a number of good cases, and for private equity, it might be very insightful. So essentially, it goes through the various strategies that private equity firms can engage with their portfolio. And there are three sort of organizational thinking structures that they go through. With Vista Equity Partners that have a lot of 85 portfolio companies. They are really essentially from top down, putting together CEO benchmarks and reporting essentially for the portfolio companies. There's more another approach when people help each other in the portfolio. They enable that interactions, and then leadership from the center, where they put together an expert group of folks with benchmarks, assessments, and latest stuff to propagate through the companies. So good article overall, I think, but nothing major for the AI leader, I thought. So optional.
All righty, thank you. Tim, optional?
Yeah, I could go with optional on this. There are some, it's interesting because private equity has their money on the line, so they have real skin in the game. So from that perspective, it's more interesting, and they give some examples of how to get companies to take it seriously. But it's pretty light on the details. So I could go for optional.
Light on details. I'll add, when you dig into it, the $3.2 trillion in assets under management is a sample size on the survey of 30 people. So this is not a very extensive group as the science goes. John, Paul, optional. You good with that?
Optional. Yeah. Should have used a robot to be more concise.
The last one that we have for today comes from Stability AI, and it talks about how Stability AI and ARM are bringing on-device Gen AI audio to smartphones.
Tim, we're now making music without an internet connection right on our phones. What do you think of the news?
Yeah, I think this is interesting, but I would rate it optional. But again, a hugely important trend that we've talked about a lot, which we talked about even earlier today, which is movement towards the edge. And the fact that they can generate audio without an internet connection on a standard ARM-based smartphone is quite an achievement, but it still takes a long time. I mean, it's not that useful, I think, in a regular environment. So there's some niche applications that are probably useful here, but this is not a watershed breakthrough moment where, oh my God, everybody's got this power on their phone kind of thing. So it's a product announcement. I give it an optional.
We have an optional. John, optional?
Yes, absolutely optional. But really cool trend.
Well, guys, I was actually going important or essential. This is a step change, 30 times faster, right? And it's on the platform. ARM is essentially powering most of our smartphones behind it, right? So
99% globally.
Yeah. So this is I think it's a big deal, and I think the AI leader needs to know about it. This is especially for folks who have apps in their product delivery, right? This is a big deal. And it will get better. Not necessarily they need to go today, right, to use it. It's available. It's open sourced. I think this is amazing, actually. So I was going important, essential.
Interesting.
Well, yes and no. I mean, I could be arm twisted into important, but look, we'd have to cover every chip announcement and everything that's going on because they're all improving. 30X is, the everyday miracle kind of thing, right? It's a big improvement, but we're seeing 10X, 100X improvements all the time across the board. And to me, the big issue is 30X is great, but we need 300X or 3000X before this stuff is really going to be broadly capable enough for the average user.
I don't know, Tim. I mean, it's 99% of cell phones. It's 30X is still 30X. I mean,
it is. Yeah, I said I could be arm twisted into important. Yeah, because it is an
and
important
it's seconds
trend.
now. So previously, Tim, it wasn't really in the cards. You couldn't, when it takes a minute to generate and deliver, it's not yet ready, right? When it takes seconds, and it's on 90 plus 90, almost all of the cell phones, hey, then you take notice. So that's where I was going. Maybe not quite right, and it's open source. So anybody can download it now and start working on it.
Yeah,
I think what's
I won't argue.
I watched the video with the founder and CEO of Stable.
Yeah,
and he was talking about his designs on extending these kinds of capabilities, right? They're starting with text to voice and text to audio, but extending that to all of these stable diffusion models they already have and diffusion models. So text to image, text to video, and ultimately 3D. And to have all those sorts of capabilities at the edge is a key piece of the puzzle, but I think it's still quite early in spite of how big an advancement this is. And I do agree, it is more than a step change. It's significant step forward. 99% of the market makes it a big deal. It will impact a lot of what happens. I'll give it a lower back pocket important, and we'll leave it there. Worth elevating at least to be aware of, because it is going to touch almost everyone.
Yeah, amazing.
And that will be it. Do we have any other announcements or?
I just wanted to.
Anka's just bringing up the big board.
Well, Adam did a fabulous job last night in Learning Lab in terms of getting us through new ways to do imaging and videos, which was fun. We had a fantastic little image and cartoon about battle pugs, which are always a favorite. And we also, Hugh Pole, also from Brand Rank AI, did a really nice job of laying out what the future of, the answer engines might be. So that'll be available.
Yes, it was great.
We'll be uploading that shortly.
It was great.
We'll be uploading that episode shortly.
All right, Ankaj, do you have the final tally for us? Here we go. All right, good way to continue the week on a Tuesday. We have 3 importance, 3 optionals: Deutsche Telekom, Microsoft Dragon, and Stability and ARM. Thank you from the whole team to all of our listeners who join and comment. We always appreciate all the input and that you get up and start your day with us. And for myself and the whole team, thanks and have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.